Want to grow dense Scallion microgreens? Well, today I'm going to share with you guys how we like to grow our Scallion microgreens and get a beautiful crop at the end of this. Now, we like to make our videos as easy as possible for anyone to follow. That way you can tag along and hopefully you'll become a believer and enjoy your amazing microgreens after this video. We have gotten a ton of requests for this video, and I'm really excited to share it with you. If you aren't familiar with our channel, my name is Mandy, and I'm one of the co-founders here at On The Grow. Our channel is all about teaching people how to grow and doing fun experiments that make microgreens as easy as possible, no matter what your experience level is. Before we get into this video, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so that way you get notified anytime we put out new videos. Now let's get growing. The first thing that I did was I picked out the type of trays I was going to use. For this grow, I ended up going with the sprouting trays, and we're going to be using a 3-tray setup. So what that is our first tray, which is our bottom tray, and that is a solid non-hold tray, and that's used for holding the water. And then second is our middle tray. This is going to be a mesh or slotted tray. This will hold our grow medium and allow roots to pass through. And then our very last tray is going to be our top tray, and that's just another no hold green tray like our one before. And this is used to trap humidity and even out the pressure, so that way we get a really good germination rate. And if you're curious, we have a video on this which we'll link above. The next step is picking out your growing medium. For this, I'm going to be using Burpee's Organic potting mix, and we're going to be taking that second tray, which is the tray in the middle, this mesh tray, and we're going to fill that up with 2 cups of that grow medium first. If you're using a 10-20 tray, make sure you double that amount of soil. We love this soil, and it was one of the first soils we ever used, and it does a great job. So I highly suggest it if you're looking for a soil. Now this soil has a NPK rating of 0.12-0.12-0.12. It always provides us with really great germination and growth, and that's why we choose to use this soil. If you want to, you can add nutrients to it, like worm castings for instance, but for this grow, I'm not going to do that. After adding my soil into the tray, I went through and removed any clumps, and if there was any big twigs, I went ahead and took those out so that way they don't block my seeds later down the line. And then I lightly tamped the soil, but not too hard. Now that we have our soil into our tray, it was time to go and grab us some seeds. And as you can see, we have a lot of seeds. We got bins and bins of them, so it took me a second to find my chives. For this grow, I'm using the chive seeds from True Leaf Market. For this sprouting tray, I use 2 tablespoons, which is about 19 grams of seed. And if you're using a 10-20 tray, make sure you double that amount of seed for that tray. If you're curious how much it costs for our single sprouting tray, for just the seeds, it costs $3.50 per grow. What? After measuring out my seed, I poured them into my hand and I began to evenly spread the seed across my tray. I made sure not to make any clumps because you don't want that later in the grow because it will cause issues. Whenever you're seeding your tray, make sure you take your time because it can be very therapeutic watching how the seeds hit that soil, and it's very calming to the soul. After I spread my seeds out evenly across my tray, I took 1 more cup of the Burpee's Organic soil, I put that on top of my seed, and then I evenly spread that across my seed. Once the soil was spread, I lightly tamped it. Our very next step was to water our crop. For this, I used a 2-gallon pump sprayer, and I made sure to keep my hand in motion so that way we evenly water our soil, and I made sure that there was no puddling. You don't want this to be super saturated. Something that was really fun to watch as well is as I watered the tray, seeing how the water compacts the soil some was very cool to look at. After my tray was watered, I took that very last green tray and I placed it on top of my seeds. I did not use any weight for this since scallions are a delicate crop, they don't really need a lot of weight. So the empty tray was sufficient enough for the weight. The reason why we put that tray on top is because it helps to trap in that humidity and it gives us a better germination rate. Plus later on in the growth, it will help a lot by providing a little bit of resistance so you can get a stronger crop. Now that your tray is seated and ready, you can take it and place it on to a dark location that also has good airflow. Since the sprouting trays are slightly transparent, be sure to keep them out of light if possible. And remember to mist this twice a day. We always mist our trays in the morning and in the evening. Now it's time to move in to the germination. So let's go ahead and move on over to there. Now let's talk about the steps for germination. What we're waiting for is the seeds to crack open, send out roots in its first set of leaves. Or in this case, for the leaves to push through the soil. Quick fun fact, the first leaf on chives is an embryonic leaf called a monocotyledon. aka monocot. Most microgreens are diocots, meaning they have 2 embryonic leaves or cotyledons. On day 4, I began seeing some of my chive sprouts coming out of that soil, but they weren't ready yet to come out of germination. And don't forget to mist twice a day during germination, so that way you get a good germination rate and your crop is nice and healthy. By day 6, the soil pushed up from all the seeds germinating and chives started coming out the side. This told me it was time to move into the light. So what I did was I took my tray and I put them underneath 3 of my 20-watt Barina T5 LEDs. We highly suggest these for anyone that's getting into growing because they are very cost effective and they do a great job. Once my crop was put underneath the light for the first time, this is when we also began bottom watering for the first time. For this, I just used regular water. When it comes to these sprouting trays, you may not need to water them twice a day like you do with your 10-20 trays. And if you're curious for more on that, we do have a video about growing in these, so we'll link that above. That way you guys can get a little bit of tips on how to use these trays. So over the next few days, I just kind of watered it as it needed more water. I made sure to pay attention to if the soil was super saturated. I kind of just let it do its thing until it needed more water. By day 7, we began seeing our chives pushing up through that soil more, and they started greening up from being underneath those lights. I made sure to check my roots to see how they were doing and if we needed more water, and I saw that my roots are looking really healthy and there was no signs of issues. Once day 9 came around, everything was getting very dense and the growth was looking fantastic. And then once day 12 came around, we had a crazy dense tray of Scallion Microgreens. So at this point, you can decide whether or not you want to grow them out for longer or if you want to go ahead and harvest them on day 12. It's totally up to you. I just like mine to be a little bit shorter, so I harvested them on day 13. So let's go ahead and jump over to past Mandy and look at my harvest for this video. I think we got really great germination across the entire tray. It's super even, which I love to see. And you may be noticing a lot of these little seed holes on this crop in particular. That is completely okay. You can leave those on this crop. I think it gives it a really nice appearance to them. And with the seed holes of this being so thin, you really don't notice them if you end up chewing them, which is really nice. Another thing, I feel like I did seed this a little bit heavy. If you wanted to, you could drop that seed density down some, but it seems like they did really good. So let's go ahead and get this harvested. So something I'm gonna do is just very carefully grab this. You don't wanna grab it super hard because you will pull these out of your medium. Scallions root pretty well, but they don't root super heavy. So they can come out super easy. First cut in. I'm trying to harvest up a little bit high. And our first harvest is really beautiful. Look at that. Those are so pretty. And you might be noticing a little bit of grow medium on them. With this, you can just do this and kind of knock it off. And since this is a little bit more of a grabby crop, there will be some of that grow medium mixed throughout. Just kind of take a little bit of time and try to knock that out if you can. Okay. Now we can go in for our next harvest. Remember, grab it carefully. They do catch on each other quite a bit. That is our last little bit of harvest. Now, something with this crop I would suggest is to rinse it off a little bit after you've harvested it or before you use it to eat, because you are going to get a decent amount of that dirt inside of your crop. Personally, kind of depends on who you are. I don't really mind a little bit of dirt, it's just dirt. But if it really bothers you, I would suggest rinsing this off just a little bit before you use it. And we got a harvest weight of 81 grams from our tray of scallions. That's a really good harvest weight for this particular crop because it is a delicate crop. That means that you're not going to get as heavy of a harvest weight as you would with a brassica or a sunflower. Nonetheless, this is a beautiful jar of our chives microgreens. The smell of this crop is a lot stronger than the flavor is. The oniony smell that I'm smelling right now is decently strong. It's kind of like the adult version of green onions.
but the flavor of this is nice and light. It's not overpowering, and it's really pleasant to eat.
So let's go ahead and recap this grow. I ended up getting 81 grams of harvest weight from my 19 grams of seed. That means that we got a 326% increase from seed to fresh weight harvest. At the grocery store, you can buy scallions for about $3 per ounce, whereas if you grow them at home, it only costs you $1.47 to grow a tray of scallions. So that's a big savings there. So let me go ahead and break that down a little bit more for you. The total cost equals $3.50 per tray for seed and 69 cents per tray for soil. So the seed and soil cost is $4.19 per tray. Then we got 81 grams, which equals 2.85 ounces. So if you take the 2.85 ounces and you compare that to grocery store prices, that means that we got $8.55 a product for $4.19, which means we saved $4.26 by growing our Scallion microgreens ourselves. That is huge, you guys. Something I do want to note is that you could have grown these out for another 5 to 10 more days if you'd like to. That way you get a higher harvest weight and a taller product. So one thing that I would definitely do different is put a thinner layer of that grow medium on top of your seeds during germination. That way you don't have as much of that soil being pushed up and you get a much cleaner product, because mine got a little bit messy. Well, you guys, that is how you grow scallions from seed to harvest. And now that I have my harvested microgreens, I'm gonna take these and probably make a potato soup, because that sounds really good right now with all the temperature changes, and Scallion microgreens are gonna go great on this. So if you enjoyed this video, please give us a thumbs up. If you dislike it, give it a thumbs down. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them in the section below. Even if you have some recipes, I'd like to hear those as well. We have a Facebook and an Instagram. They're both at On The Grow Farms, and we have a website that is www.onthegrow.net. Thank you guys so much, and keep on believing.